All right, so I hear you want to learn how to make some rainbow trout in your class, and you also want to have me tell you about like all the different environmental impacts and like where the fish comes from and all that. So that's what I'm going to do today. My name is David, and we're going to learn all about rainbow trout when it comes to culinary stuff. So you can get rainbow trout in a lake like this that you wild catch, because usually a lot of states, their park department will restock a lake. But if you're working in a restaurant serving it to customers, that's most likely not how you're getting your rainbow trout. You're going to get your rainbow trout from a farm, a commercial fish farm. And what they do is they make fake lakes or fake ponds, and they'll actually will selectively breed out fish. And while that sounds good, because you think like that's more like clean water because it's controlled, and sometimes it is a little true, but because they're man-made lakes, they don't filter like a natural lake often does. So one of the big things is that you have to worry about is their feed practices basically at the fishery or hatchery, whatever you want to call it. Because if the fish doesn't eat all the food, that food will break down, become sediments and stuff in the bottom of the pond, and it has nowhere to go. So it kind of toxifies the water. It can also leach off and like run off into neighboring areas, causing some pretty significant environmental impacts. Now there are things that people do, and the governments are trying to get started to help with that. Like they have some codes and stuff, and monitoring of all the fish feeding and everything. And there's like different ways like put nets inside the bottom, and that helps act as a filter. And then like they'd like trudge out all that gunk, and then they'll use the sediments to fertilize local farms. So they're trying, but depending on how well they're policing the area you get it from, there is a big variety of potential toxins and stuff in your rainbow trout. And there's also some new stuff they're trying to do where they're trying to take like more like a biodiverse way of doing it, where they will put in like scavengers like shrimp and other things like algae to eat some of that, because they also have the fish poop as well, the fecal matter that the fish make, and it has nowhere to go either, because like this kind of lake bleeds off to another body of water or whatever. Fishery lakes don't always do that, so you have to be careful about that. And then there's always the travel time. So once it gets harvested, a lot of times they'll either ship it fresh or frozen. Oftentimes the head will be left on, because if you leave the head on, the fish meat stays better longer. And if they ship it frozen, it can be good for 10 to 14 days. But after that, you run into some issues, and depends on your local grocer as far as what their policies are. Oftentimes it'll be frozen on ice, 10 to 14 days, roughly from when it was harvested. So it's just all things to consider. Like you want it fresh, head on, if all possible within a day or two of being caught. And also another thing they do too is when they catch them, they put them in a segregation tank for like 3 days, because they have to basically kind of starve a little bit and process the food that's in their bellies before they're butchered out. Otherwise the meat gets contaminated, so that's another thing to consider as well. But so from farm to table, like I said, you're looking about 2 weeks potentially. Definitely 4 days, because like I said, you have that 3-day starvation period. And depending on the size of the fishery, like I said, could be a lot of environmental impact as far as all the toxins that the fish are putting off, and their uneaten food and how that's filtered and used and mitigated. Lots of things to consider. But it is tasty. I like it a lot. Just be responsible when you source it. Thank you.